the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Howdy ho, everybody. Coming to you cordless from glamorous Minneapolis. It's Thursday night, July 16th, 2026. I'm Jim Peters, and welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night. This is show number 369, if you're keeping score at home, and you should. If you watched the show previously, you know Jonathan Lockwood comes on here on a regular basis. He's a military historian, former U.S. Army colonel, and if I gotta ask, we're gonna put him on the screen here. He's calling in from Western Virginia like he used to. Do I got this right, Jonathan? They use one of your books as a textbook at West Point or something like that?
Oh, well, and not quite. This was back in the past when my first book came out. My first book was The Soviet View of U.S. Strategic Doctrine, Implications for Decision Making. And the book itself became adopted by the U.S. Army's Command and General Staff College as a recommended reading in the Strategic Studies subcourse. This was while I was taking CGSC by correspondence before coming up for major. And I said, okay. So I said,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. I think I'm the only Army officer that has ever done that.
Now, in the future, just to abbreviate that, I'm going to say they use your book as a textbook.
Yeah. And the National Intelligence University used my subsequent book as a required reading in their courses. So that's pretty good. That is pretty cool.
That's pretty cool, man. It really is. Seriously.
So right now, when they told me over in Germany they were using my book as a recommended reading, I said, well, I guess I better call those folks up and see if I can get constructive credit for the Strategic Studies subcourse. And so I called them up, and they said, I told them I'd like to get constructive credit for your Strategic Studies subcourse. And the guy asked, why is that? I said, well, I have a PhD in international affairs, number one, and number two, you're using my book. Using my book.
What did he say? They didn't say no, did they?
No, he said, well, just send us documentation, what your name of your book is and your authors. And I sent it in to them, and they gave me constructive credit. He said, don't bother. So I could skip that one. That enabled me to finish Command and General Staff College by correspondence just before my promotion board to major came up. And I had it documented. I sent it to them. And then I got promoted to major on time. And I found out later that of all the factors that go into promotion boards, that people gave only one factor had a 100% promotion rate. Not even command could make that. In this case, it was those captains who had managed to complete Command and General Staff College before coming up for major, and I was one of the few. So great. Cool. That paid off. I had a direct correlation that the effort was worth it.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. You're an impressive man. That's the reason I love having you on. Also, you like to talk, so that's good.
Yes, I do.
It's a talk show, so that
I hate to go on a talk show and be a shrinking violet.
No. You'd be surprised. I have to say, so this is our 369th show. I've been really good about not having duds on as guests. I mean,
other talk show hosts like David Letterman have had duds.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I think in the entertainment business you get more of them. People come on here mostly for information. So it's like, but even still, some people are highly learned but don't talk well. So even some authors, I don't have to tell you that. Some people are really good at writing, but not good at talking. So anyway.
One of my friends in graduate school, I wrote a letter to him, and he wrote back and said, he says, getting a letter he says, it's really, you talk exactly the way you write exactly the way you speak. It's like opening the envelope and having you spill out.
I think that's a testament to your authenticity too, because that's what I think happens to people that are authentic. They write just the same way they talk.
It's nice to know.
So, of course, we have you on here to talk about military matters, and that's the reason you're on today. So, have you been? I assume you know what's been going on in Iraq the last week or so, right? Or Iran, excuse me.
Yeah, it's kind of get that one letter mixed up.
Oh yeah, and I do it all the time, constantly.
With Iran, well, now you've got two nations engaged in a contest of political wills. I mean, Clausewitz said war is an extension of politics, and in war the result is never final. Well, you could say the same thing about politics too. In politics, the result is never final. In this case, you've got Iran, a theocracy essentially, with an existential view of the world, and they refer to the United States as the great Satan, and to Israel as the little Satan, and they are engaged in conflict, and an existential conflict in their view, to which they are not willing to let go of, no matter how big the military imbalance is. And for the United States, you have President Trump, who does not view the world existentially. He views it in terms of, well, he's a businessman, and he thinks in terms of, much like if you watch the movie Kelly's Heroes back in the 1970s with Don Rickles, who played a character named Crap Game. And they came up in this town where they knew there was a large store of gold in a bank. And Rickles says to Kelly, to Clint Eastwood, who's playing Lieutenant Kelly, he says, maybe he wants to make a deal. And he says, deal? He says, a deal. It's that kind of mentality for someone like President Trump. To him, everyone wants to make a deal ultimately about something. They've used it in a very transactional view.
But but Jonathan, isn't that actually kind of the problem here? Is everyone in the past, and Trump to a certain extent too, although not as much, has tried to approach this more or less rationally. Like you said, everybody wants to make a deal. And these people do not want to make a deal. They want to take over the world, and they don't care if they're dying trying. I mean, even their Constitution says this. They have it actually in writing, So everyone in the past, everyone has tried to placate these people or tried to make a deal, and everyone has failed.
There is a historical precedent for this. You remember the Roman Empire, Rome versus Carthage in the Punic Wars.
Yeah.
And the Roman senator Cicero would say, and every one of his speeches with the Latin phrase, Carthago delenda est. Carthage must be destroyed. And it made to cease to exist. And when Rome finally won, they did in fact make Carthage cease to exist. They plowed over their fields, sowed the fields with salt so they couldn't raise any agricultural base, and so you could not have a nation thriving there. And now President Trump, has reimposed the blockade in the Hormuz Straits and on Iranian ships. And now he may come to the conclusion that he may have to impose, in fact, a Carthaginian peace on Iran and effectively destroy it as a viable nation state. Because after all, Iran has been saying for 47 years practically, death to America. They've been saying that for 47 years, and they've been absolutely ruthless. And so eventually he's going to say, well, if we're rational about this, if you want us to cease to exist, we're not going to cease to exist at your pleasure. You're going to be the ones who have to cease to exist if it comes down to that choice. So right now the United States has the overwhelming military balance. There are other skeptics who try to contend that Trump has no plan. No, what he is confronting is a mindset that is totally alien to his own.
Yeah.
And so it's totally alien.
Basically, don't you think it's basically alien to any sort of Western thinking?
Correct. Well, we encountered pretty much the same problem in World War II versus Japan, Imperial Japan.
And you're not the I got that in my notes here. Somebody brought that up a few days ago that, and you and I have talked about this before. We dropped the bomb on Hiroshima
That was the only thing that shocked the Japanese into realizing that either we surrender.
They still didn't.
We surrender.
They still didn't surrender.
It took two bombs.
Yeah,
and we were threatening. We sort of head faked them a little bit by threatening to drop another one, and we didn't have any more ready at that point.
Right, we only had two.
We had two. We used them both as a. Thank God that they came to their senses and said, "Okay, we surrender."
Yeah.
And for several years afterwards, we were shadowboxing with the rest of the world, pretending that we had all of these nuclear weapons available, and we didn't.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the Korean War that we began producing them in quantity.
Yeah.
So so right now, President Trump.
But the point you're trying to make, I think, I'm putting words in your mouth.
Sure.
Is that other people said this week, is that the Japanese were just as irrational about their ideas of world dominance as Iran is.
Yes, they were in fact irrational about that. The Yamamoto, the architect of the attack on Pearl Harbor, people were talking to him after Pearl Harbor. They were talking about invading the United States, and Yamamoto replied, "I would never invade the United States. There would be a rifle beneath every blade of grass."
Yeah,
and he was right. And he also said after the attack on Pearl Harbor, he said, "I fear that all we have done is awaken a sleeping giant and filled him with a terrible resolve."
Right.
In this case, Iran is confronting the United States with overwhelming material and military superiority. National debt problem notwithstanding, with the United States still is overwhelmingly superior.
Yeah.
And,
all right, so I have to run some of them by you because
sure.
I have crazy conspiracy theories that I know are crazy, but you actually know what's going on. So it's occurred to me that one of these reasons we tried this, whatever you want to call it, ceasefire with this memorandum of understanding or whatever the hell you want to call it, that one of the reasons we did this, I personally think that the administration knew this wasn't going to work, but it gave us time militarily to get our ducks in a row as far as more munitions and ammunition, from that point of view. Is there anything to that?
There is some credence to that. There is some logic to that. So it's not unreasonable to think that, okay, we need time to bring up our military forces so that we are better prepared, if necessary, to launch an invasion of a place like, say, Karg Island and physically take away the facilities that enable Iran to export any oil at all. So there is truth. There is some reason behind that. So I'm not disputing your theory. And right now, because I do not have access to classified material, I can only speculate from what I see in the open. But there are certain things which do make sense. And right now, the United States, they have the initiative. They have the ability to impose very severe conditions on Iran and potentially threaten their very existence. So we'll see. Does President Trump have the political fortitude to go ahead and press ahead with what could be a very destructive outcome for Iran?
So yesterday, some reporter asked Vice President Vance about this, and he said, as far as like, can we crush Iran without sending troops in? And Vance said, absolutely yes. And he said, the quote from we're not in that business anymore. But can they? Can we topple this regime without sending any troops in at all?
Well, if you destroyed the water facilities, any water purification or extraction facilities, they've got a severe water problem right now, and we know
they do.
And how long can you survive without water? 72 hours?
Yeah.
If you just so.
I never thought of that. You're absolutely right.
You can survive maybe 72 hours without water.
Yeah.
If we effectively destroy enough of their water capacity, then they are in an existentially unsupportable position. So, but the question is, will President Trump go that far? And if they indicate if they still keep shouting death to America and keep making clear that they are not going to surrender or accommodate us in any way, well, then, if they still seem to be intent on getting a nuclear weapon no matter what, well, then, they leave us no choice.
Jonathan,
no choice at all.
Let's move on to Ukraine, your big specialty here, because it appears now, well, I mean, this has been a slow process over the last 6 months, but it seems like everyone has come around to your point of view, which was which was for basically years now. As far I don't think, you tell me if I'm misstating this, that Ukraine can win this war and basically had to, and people are finally now. The world is finally starting kind of to agree with you, don't you think? I mean,
amazing but true. It's nice to be on the leading edge. It's nice to be.
And also, there seems to be light in the tunnel. People seem to realize that, yes, Ukraine actually can win this. Although you said this before, and I totally agree with you, and that is, I think realistically what would happen is Ukraine would win, but Russia would declare victory and go home.
Yeah. That's about all that Russia would be left with. Now, Victor Davis Hanson said earlier today in interviewing on Fox, he said that Russia's already taken close to 1.5 million casualties in this war.
Yeah.
The greatest since World War II.
Right. It's crazy.
Yeah. And they just, Putin knows he cannot win. He cannot win, but he cannot afford to lose. So he's caught in what the Germans call Zugzwang, forced move. It's a term in the game of chess. You've got Zugzwang is when you've only got one move, and that move is going to lead to your checkmate, but you have to make it.
Right.
So now the Russians are in Zugzwang. So now the real forcing move for Ukraine is going to be Crimea. Crimea is the center of gravity. That is the real focal point of the war. If the Ukrainians have reduced Crimea's air defenses, they've wreaked havoc on their gasoline facilities, gasoline shortages, power failures throughout Crimea, and really the Ukrainians, I would certainly not doubt that they have a strategic reserve of forces ready when they think the time is right to launch an offensive into Crimea once they've isolated it from resupply and reinforcement, and they can then force the Russian occupiers of Crimea to surrender or flee for their lives, and then that will make a clear operational defeat for Russia in Ukraine, in Crimea. A defeat they will not be able to disguise or explain away. Oh, we really meant to do that. No, you didn't. And then...
So I told you I was going to give you a few minutes here to talk about anything you want to talk about. What do you want to talk about?
Well, what really intrigues me is the latest decision by the Supreme Court to overturn a 91-year precedent, which in effect gives President Trump the authority to fire anyone within his executive branch. Used to be there's this thing that shielded a lot of these Washington bureaucrats from being fired.
Right.
And that created what we refer to as the deep state. Now, President Trump has been given the ability to fire those people, and he may well take advantage of it. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Right now, we have the problem with the national debt. Current national debt in the United States, think of the national debt as a national credit card with no limit and no repayment time. Yeah. We've been going hog wild with this over the past several decades, since really 1971. But now, with the national debt accelerating out of control and the national debt interest rate on the national debt getting larger, here's where President Trump has been given a key weapon. If he can manage to effect an annual cost savings of $1 trillion or greater, if it's $1 trillion, he basically arrests the problem. He keeps it from getting worse, but it doesn't get any better. But if he can exceed that annual cost savings by over $1 trillion, he can, and he could do it by reducing the size of the bureaucracy, the former so-called deep state. He could fire, many employees in the deep state and affect significant annual cost savings. He could do what Doge could not do. Doge did not have the authority to fire, to really fire. But now President Trump has that ability. And if he takes advantage of that, he could if he gets greater than the interest rate on the national debt and starts paying it off, paying off a maxed out credit card, the minimum required payments become smaller and smaller. The whole national debt problem goes into reverse.
So I don't know if you know this. I had Murray Sabrin, the economist, on Monday, and we were talking about this. And first of all, a little statistics just to remind people: the national debt is $40 trillion, and like you said, I didn't know this, but Murray brought this up during the discussion. During the Reagan administration, it was $1 trillion. That was 40 years ago, and people were appalled. And now the interest on the national debt and the annual is $1 trillion. That's right. And it's unbelievable. And as far as the deep state is concerned, the U.S. government, the federal government, has a little more than 4 million people non-militarily working for it. Do we need 4? I mean, it's a big country, but still, do we need 4 million people? I doubt it.
President Trump could pull a Javier Milei. He could basically take a buzzsaw to the bureaucracy and greatly reduce it. And thus, by reducing regulation, reducing the overhead, he could, in effect, stimulate economic growth and effect great cost savings. And if he does that, if he manages to kick the national debt problem into reverse by achieving those kinds of cost savings, oh yeah, he gets my vote for Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, and the thing is, and you're talking about Malaise, the interesting thing about Malaise is when he started that, when he first went into office and said, I'm going to do this, there are so many people who said, well, it's the death of the country. You're going to destroy the country. It was the exact opposite. They went from being almost bankrupt to a thriving economy in way less than 2 years. It was almost instantaneous. Unbelievable.
It's a perfect example, and it shows President Trump the opportunity that he has now that the Supreme Court has effectively given him this power. Although you have to be careful, because you remember what Lord Acton once said: power corrupts. Absolute power tends to corrupt absolute.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
And you have to keep your fingers crossed and pray that President Trump does not become so irretrievably corrupt. It's like being given the one ring of power from the Lord of the Rings. It says, can you wield the ring without becoming irretrievably corrupt?
Yeah.
And we would see. But now he's being shown the power. The Supreme Court has given him the power. Now we see if he can actually pull it off. And he could do so without resorting to my draconian solution for addressing the Social Security problem and potentially transforming it into an instrument for reducing the national debt. Recall that the Social Security, when it was instituted back in 1936, the eligibility age was established at 62. And the life expectancy back then was 59.
Oh, I thought it was 61, but that's close enough.
No. 59 in 1936. Essentially,
something. Hold on. You need to emphasize this. That was, let me see, that was 90 years ago. Yes, the average lifespan of an American was 59 years old, and now it's like, well, for people who live over
79. It's 79.
And I think if you live over the age of 21, it's like 85 or 86. I think something like that. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's like, yeah.
But now here's where it gets interesting. Back then, Social Security was quite easily sustainable because Americans were doing their patriotic duty and dying before they became eligible for Social Security.
That's right.
Doggone it. Medical advances is another thing. Prosperity, and we started living longer. Doggone it. How dare we?
Yeah,
so
I know.
now the average life expectancy is 79. And they're talking in Congress about two competing schools of thought on how to fix Social Security. One is lift the cap, and let all levels of income above $185,000 a year be taxed with Social Security tax. Okay, that would fix it. It would fix most of the problem. It would not address the national debt per se.
No.
Now, but the other school of thought says raise the eligibility retirement age from 67, where it is now, to 70. And they're talking about phasing it in, kind of like gently tugging at the Band-Aid. Yeah, and I checked with AI. AI says that raising the retirement age eligibility is the greatest single source of potential revenue. So, okay, given that, what do? You don't phase it in. What you had to solve Social Security, you have to do both schools. You have to both lift the cap and raise the eligibility retirement age. You could raise it to 70, only you don't phase it in. You do it suddenly. You don't say, as of such and such a date, it now goes from 67, it's now 70. Boom, like that. You generate a lot more revenue. You create a lot. You create some pain, especially for people who are just about to turn 67 and say, oh, you got to wait 3 more years. Yeah. So that's not a huge amount. It's a significant amount, but that can be dealt with.
Also, somebody's going to complain about everything. So what the hell?
Yeah. So you're going to get complaints no matter what you do. But if it mathematically solves the problem, squares the circle, and causes and contributes to reducing the national debt, then it is worth doing, along with slashing the deep state or reducing it to a proper, more reasonable level. So if you combine my proposed draconian solution with drastically reducing the deep state, you have the potential for solving the national debt problem and progressively keeping it going. If you can sustain it over a period of years, the real draconian solution would be if you follow the historical example and you raise the eligibility retirement age to 79 suddenly. What you have done is you have for 12 years frozen the number of people on Social Security. Those people on Social Security, they stay on Social Security. But for 12 years, no one would be eligible for Social Security.
Right.
And all those people on Social Security, they would contribute to solving the problem through a natural process we know as death.
So,
death is such an amazing process. It's what makes 50-year reunions in high school and college really easy, especially after the 50-year reunion when people start dropping like flies.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those things. But the people would naturally leave the Social Security system. It would become smaller and smaller, and the surpluses would become logically larger and larger.
I think we need to point out here what Sabrin pointed out on Monday, and that is right now, if nothing's done, Social Security will go bankrupt in 6 years. 2032.
Yeah, bankrupt because then you can only pay with what you've got in terms of payroll taxes.
Correct.
It would force cuts in payments to Social Security recipients. They're talking about $500, $600 on average for each Social Security recipient. Now, by the time they reach that, it's not absolute. Basically, it would be cut back to where it would have grown to that point by then. So it depends on if you have other assets. But for people who rely only on Social Security, they would be hurt. Yes, definitely. And that is why decisive action needs to be taken by President Trump now. And the real pivot point for that is this November's midterm elections, where you throw the Democratic Socialists into the mix. It gives the Republicans a very real chance, very real possibility of holding both the Senate and the House, and thus giving President Trump essentially a free hand for the last 2 years of his administration.
Right.
He could then cut loose with measures similar to what we've discussed. He could implement them all. It says, what are you going to do? Not elect me to a third term? President Trump would not be afraid of implementing these kinds of solutions, saying, I might encounter significant political opposition. Since when is the prospect of encountering significant political opposition ever discouraged this president?
Really? I know.
He says, let me at him.
It's incredible. People say, so they should figure out some way for Trump to run again. But, I have to say that he's already 80, it's like. Yeah,
give the man a break. They've shot at him more times probably than we know of.
Yeah.
Tried to assassinate him.
Well, this was 2 years ago yesterday, right? I think. Yeah. The Butler happened, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so when you do some of it, when you do something like that to someone like Trump, don't be surprised if he comes at you with a vengeance.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you. I mean, he does seem. I mean, he does seem to be exhibiting some signs of physical aging, but his mind is sharp. That's not a question. You know?
Yeah, the opposition tries to portray him using selective editing and
right. Yeah,
he's not if you put a side by side of him against Biden.
That's right. That's my point, actually. The problem with Biden wasn't that he was deteriorating, is that he was mentally deteriorating. You know, if your mind is sharp, you can do the job. You know, I mean, FDR didn't, you know, his body was crap, you know, and he did the job, you know, so.
Yeah. And yes, it is capable. Yeah, I mean, right. Yeah. If they were to appoint me Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War, however you want to call it, in place of Hegseth, well, you know, first thing I'd do, I would repurpose the makeup room. Yeah, the makeup. Okay, you make that makeup room a nap room where if I'm working late at night and the president calls, you know, okay, I can take a short nap, power nap, whatever I need, and be able to get to whatever the president wants. And right now, basically, if I were being interviewed, or shall we say, or up on Capitol Hill for Secretary of Defense, I said, well, I would congratulate Senator Hirono for having established the low bar.
Yeah, really.
Hirono said, you're the least qualified person ever to be Secretary of Defense.
Yeah.
And she said that, okay, that's the low bar I'd have to clear in order to be nominated.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have to say, I don't have to prove that I'm the most qualified. I just have to not be the least. And my first piece of evidence would be, well, when I came on active duty as a 24-year-old first lieutenant with a PhD in international affairs, this is 1980. That's the same year that Hegseth was born. Okay,
yeah, right.
There's no possibility of Hegseth and me having a meaningful discussion about strategy back then. Hey, Pete, what do you think about the current situation between us and the Soviets? He was working on the same skill sets that every human being on this planet works on during their first year of life. You know, rolling over on your stomach.
And pooping.
Learning how to poop, not too messily. Recognizing your mother's face. He was one of those skill sets. I mean, I had almost a 25-year head start on the guy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The first of all, okay. As far as the makeup room is concerned, he is a very attractive man.
Well, you remember, look where he came from. He came from Fox.
Yeah.
He had a $5 million a year contract.
Yeah,
with Fox.
Right. I know.
And I said, why would he give that up in order to go be Secretary of Defense? Well, I can understand the logic from this point of view, from this perspective. He was probably thinking that, hey, I've got the endorsement of the president, and as long as he was willing to protect me, and I complete a tour as Secretary of Defense, when I go back out into the quote-unquote private sector, I can practically name my own price. Yeah, as if $5 million a year weren't enough.
But Jonathan, I don't have to tell you this. I mean, some people just feel a call to service. I mean, he was in the military like you.
Yes.
Nobody makes anyone go in the military anymore. There's not compulsion. So I mean, there's that. And like you said, though, I think people in this position assume they come out of the service and can basically end up at the same place, if not higher.
Yeah, that's true. And so long as he doesn't do anything totally scandalous while he's in office,
right?
He would not be damaged goods by the time he left the government and went back out into the private sector. He could be a consultant. He could do any number of things.
Yeah, and and you brought this up too. But the thing is, I have to say, as a non-military person, as just an observer, I am just astonished at the efficacy of the current of our current military. I mean, the stuff they have done, especially this thing with Maduro, I still find almost magical. I don't understand how they pulled this off. It's like how this guy had hundreds of people guarding him. And well, first of all, I think there was a little technology involved there that they don't want to recognize. I mean, There's
They
Cubans.
don't want to give away
They
sources
don't
and
want to give it away, right?
They want to make the rest of the world guess and be afraid.
That's right. That's right. So 20 of our guys in helicopters killed basically 400 Cuban security guards. It's unbelievable. It's really incredible, and got Maduro out of there. And it was from touchdown to New York City in 7 hours. I mean, shit. And the same thing's been happening in Iran too. I mean, first of all, just the fact that we wiped out these 50 leaders in one fell swoop, that's just freaking amazing. I mean, it really is. I
like the way the Israelis managed to make a bunch of cell phones explode.
Yeah, yes, that's right. That too.
It makes you just want to say, yeah, I don't think I'll make that call today.
But it's almost laughable. You're right. It's like, okay,
make it when you're afraid to pick up your cell phone, you got the enemy completely intimidated, out of their minds. There may yet be a number of some other technological tricks that Iran does not know about and they're deathly afraid of.
Yeah. Oh, hey, this is actually a good thing to close on too.
Yeah, sure.
Speaking of that, Trump mentioned like last week or something like that about the fact that everyone's saying, well, the Iranian people should rise up and take over their country, right? But he's brought this up, and it's kind of important. He says, yeah, but the problem is the Iranian people have no weapons, and they don't. We are the only country in the world that has the Second Amendment. I mean, so it's like, okay, how they can't really rise up because they're just going to get slaughtered, are they? I mean, right? So
unless you have some covert means of getting weapons to
them, right.
That may well be one of the problems they're working on.
Yeah, it might be. You're right. They're that's why. Yeah, they're biding time.
We don't have access to all any classified material. You can infer some things from information that's at the open. You can logically, as we are doing, determine what you need to do.
Oh, you call this logic?
Oh, well.
No. You're logical, and I'm not making fun of you. I'm making fun of me. So, like,
you're talking about your anal extraction method?
Oh, God. You said it. I didn't.
That's right. I'm part of the obscene language that they use.
Yes, you are.
Objectionable language at the beginning of the program.
Wow. Jonathan, it's great talking to you. It always is. It always is.
Great talking to you, too.
Appreciate your insight, too. So.
Well, no, I'm just, and when you become greatly monetized, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Yeah, okay, I will. Yeah, you take care of yourself. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Excellent.
Thanks. Our thanks to Jonathan Lockwood there for his insightful analysis. Yeah, like, I don't know if you caught at the beginning there, they use his books as a required reading at the military academies. Nice to know people that are that smart, isn't it? Or at least, know their jobs that well. This is the Jimcast for Thursday night, July 16th. I announced this. I have to, we end up changing stuff here. I hate to say it, but we do, because it's like, I got 1.5 people here working for me. This is a big operation. We're doing shows now Monday and Thursday nights for the summer. I originally announced we were only going to do Thursday nights, but no, I decided that just isn't going to work. We're doing Mondays and Thursday nights through the summer, at least through Labor Day. Our guest on Monday night is going to be Jacob Berg. He's the aerospace writer for the Epoch Times in New York City. And we're going to be talking about the latest file dump on the UFO file dump number 4 from the federal government. And he's going to analyze some of the stuff that happened there. So that's Monday. We talk about the UFO stuff a lot. So for that reason, I'm not doing a lot of UFO news today. So you might be interested to know that 47 years ago today was Jimmy Carter's Malaise speech. That was yesterday. It was July 15th, 1979. Now, this probably doesn't mean anything to you. You know, Carter was only president for one term. His presidency was generally considered a failure, but in my estimation and most other people's, it wasn't as bad a failure as Joe Biden's was, because Joe Biden basically caused all his own problems. You could make a very good argument that Jimmy Carter was handed a very bad hand when he started his presidency. And he was just getting the hang of it and just started to solve some problems when the election came along, and he was basically booted out of office. And we can't sugarcoat it. His presidency did not go well. It didn't. And the other thing is, too, as good meaning a man Carter was, and he really did seem to be, I kind of question his judgment in a lot of ways and in a lot of areas. But that said, the thing about Carter, and this gets lost in the fray. In 1978, the year before he gave this speech, he deregulated the airlines. Now you have to understand, up until that moment, the prices of airplane tickets was set by the federal government. In other words, it doesn't matter what carrier you use, Braniff, TWA. You know, I mentioned a bunch of names that don't exist anymore. that dates me. If you were flying from New York to LA, the price of your ticket was exactly the same. It didn't matter. So all the airlines had to compete on was service. And that's one of the reasons flying before 1978 was such a cool deal, because the service was phenomenal. They were all knocking themselves out trying to provide better service and have a reputation for better service. So in 1978, Carter rescinded that and at that point, the airlines got to set their own prices. Now, two things happened. The service evaporated. It was gone. I mean, now you're bitching in the morning about going to the airport and get on an airplane. Well, that's one of the reasons. But the other thing that happened is that prices became dirt cheap. I mean, I don't know if you appreciate this, but you can now fly from New York to LA. If you do it in the right day or book ahead, you could probably do it for about $350. Whereas, I'll give you an example. In 1960, I'm 4 years old, and my mother flew me over to Eastern Europe to meet her family. Okay. That flight, I figured out, in today's dollars would have cost $20,000. That was what my ticket cost. We were not a rich family. I came from, the fact that my father agreed to do this, especially he had a reputation for being notoriously cheap, is unbelievable. I mean, my 2-year-old sister and I, and my mother flew over to what was then the country of Yugoslavia. And I figured the 3 tickets cost my dad. I've done this math now way in retrospect. So I didn't have any appreciate it at the time, but the 3 tickets cost my dad $60,000 in 2026 money, and that's still a lot of money. And the fact that he did that is amazing. But that same flight, okay, my ticket was $20,000 in 1960. That same flight you can probably make today for about $1,000. So that gives you some idea of how much cheaper flying has become since then. So it's a trade-off. Do you want service or do you want a cheaper price? A good friend of mine worked. He was the number 11 guy for many years at what was then Northwest Airlines. Now it's at Delta. And he told me that, he said, Jim, we have run every single possible scheme anybody can think of. And the only thing the public is interested in is lower price. That's it. They don't care about the service. They don't care. Well, of course they care about the service, but not in relation. They won't pay for the service. They want a lower price ticket. That's all they care about. And God bless the airlines. That's what you've got. So, you can complain about it. I don't like it either. But the fact is, you can fly around incredibly cheap, and all of America does. There's 25,000 commercial airline flights within the United States every single day, 10 million a year. It's real. The whole industry is really amazing. And then we only lose we lose one airplane every 2 years. So out of 20 million flights, we lose one airplane. We went 4 years recently without losing one, which was really kind of an anomaly. Anyway, okay, so why am I bringing this up? Well, the thing is, that's what Carter did that, and then he realized what had happened. It blew the airline industry up in the sense that it blew up. It got huge. All of a sudden, people started booking tickets. It became and then he said, well, Jesus, maybe we should deregulate a bunch of other stuff. And he started to do that. But unfortunately, he was not reelected. And in many ways, not to belittle Reagan at all, Reagan inherited his deregulation scheme, and Reagan just continued it. So, I mean, it was, and, you got to give credit to Carter as a Democrat for figuring that out, because now God knows our current communist Democrats will never figure that out ever, because they're 26 years old and right out of college, and they've read Karl Marx, and they've decided that's the way to go. So, that you got to kind of, I mean, the guy, he was not a bad guy, but he was kind of stuck in a bad position. Biden, on the other hand, Biden caused all his own problems. I mean, it's really astonishing if you look at the stupidity of this, if you look back on it. I was not the only person. I'm sitting here in Minneapolis in my underwear, and they're announcing this Inflation Reduction Act, and I'm saying, ha, 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 that's going to cause inflation. And they're saying, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. Me and like 5,000 other economists, not that I'm an economist, and I don't think they work in their underwear, we're saying the same thing. This is going to cause inflation. Lindsey Graham's on Fox News just jabbering about the fact this is going to cause inflation. Well, they put it in, and it caused inflation. And then they're saying, well, the inflation is only transitory. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was just a giant boondoggle. I mean, this guy caused his own problems. But Carter didn't. I'm going to read a quote from his speech. This is an interesting thing, too. The speech is actually titled a Crisis in Confidence, but it's been known as the Malaise speech, even though nowhere in the speech did Carter use the word Malaise. This is one of the things he said. It is a crisis that strikes at the very heart and soul of the national will. We can see this crisis in the growing doubt of the meaning of our own lives and in the loss of unity and purpose as a nation. The erosion of confidence in the future is threatening to destroy the social and political fabric of the nation. And this is probably his most famous speech. And at the time, I have to tell you, at the time, people mocked this. They thought this was, you're basically just admitting all your own failures. That's what people were saying. In retrospect, he's gotten a lot of credit for his unusual candor. I mean, things were going to hell, and he basically got on TV and said so. And how many politicians do you know that do that? So that was 47 years ago yesterday. 100 years ago yesterday, the Los Angeles Public Central Library opened. Now, why is it a big deal? First of all, it's a stunning piece of architecture. It's right smack in the middle of downtown Los Angeles. It's kind of an Egyptian Mediterranean revival style mashup, kind of little Aztec stuff in there. I'm going to put a picture on the screen here. This is the exterior from Hope Street. And the really interesting thing is that when I moved to Los Angeles, I spent, for the first 3 months, I lived basically right by this entrance here. And so I was very, very intimately familiar with it. I was going to show some other pictures, but I couldn't find any good ones. And even this one, if you're looking at this on a mobile phone, I don't even know if you can see this. So anyway, yeah, the little Aztec pyramid at the top there. I'm rolling my cursor around. You can't see it. What am I doing? So anyway, yeah, and the inside is even maybe more stunning. But once again, I couldn't find any pictures that would probably work on your screen. So I looked, but anyway, yeah, it opened 100 years ago yesterday. It was and is still the third largest library in the United States, public library, in terms of book and periodical holdings. I'm assuming New York City's number one. I don't know what would be number two. I really don't. I have no idea. I'm just assuming that too. And they built a new edition onto it in 1993. And the new edition, they didn't try to copy the old one because you probably couldn't. But it complements it very well. It's definitely modern, but they did a good job blending it in. All right. So one of the stars of this movie, The Odyssey, which to my amazement is getting fantastic reviews. Christopher Nolan, is basically one of the great filmmakers of our time, and people said this might be his best work, which really surprised me because I thought, especially because considering all the woke casting, and I'm thinking it's The Odyssey. Christ, it's a 4,000-year-old story. Who the hell cares? But it is getting fantastic reviews. Well, anyway, Elliot Page, the former Ellie Emily Page, who now Mr. Page is, I don't, the detail, the nomenclature on this is just so confusing. I don't think he's considered a transsexual person because if he's right, he's had sexual reassignment surgery. In other words, he is now anatomically he is actually a man, and he goes by Elliot Page. Anyway, he said he's talking about the fact that they're getting crap for this for the casting of the show, and he said that he's talking about his gender, about the fact that gender is a quaint male myth, a quaint myth, and he said it's absurd because animals are queer. Now, there's another word that queer has no real meaning, okay? And the thing is that the reason I'm bringing this up is because I don't know if Mr. Page is an idiot or if he's spreading propaganda. There's absolutely gender assignment and sexual orientation have nothing in common. Nothing. So yeah, okay, so he had his gender reassigned. Okay, fine. But the thing is, that doesn't mean he's straight or gay. They have nothing to do with each other. And the thing is, he's right about this. And this is one of the things I've always used as in my mind, proof of the fact that homosexuality is a natural phenomenon. That is, all mammals, with one singular exception, and I can't remember what it is. I tried to look it up, couldn't find it. I just should ask the AI. All mammals have a homosexual component to their societies. All of them. You got beavers, queer, koalas. Doesn't matter. Every single mammal, about 10% of the population is homosexual. And of course there's nothing. There's no mental confusion there. They're animals. They're not reading the New York Times. So I've always looked at that as I've always said that although it's an anomaly in the terms of society, in terms of the numbers, that homosexuality is a natural component of biological life. I've always said that, at least mammalian life. Okay. Now, gender assignment is a completely different thing. Totally. I think the best proof of this is Caitlyn Jennings. So, or Jenner, excuse me, Caitlyn Jenner. She doesn't. She is living as a woman. Okay, she is biologically a man. She acknowledges that. She says she has no plans on having sexual assignment surgery, but she lives as a woman. Okay, fine. It's like, and this is the thing. Nobody cares. I'm getting to this at another point. We were talking about this. I had a conversation on here with Andrew Fox, Episcopal minister, like 2-3 weeks ago. Huge number of comments on TikTok. Just really, and people are all over the place. People, because we were talking about that. What I said to him and what I'm saying to you is, and which is going to come up in just a second here, because there's another part to the story about the fact that I don't think anyone in America cares if you want to live as another sex. Yeah, it seems to me that men living as women get most of the attention, but that's not all of it. And I've always said that one of the reasons I know that transsexualism is real is because, transgenderism. Once again, I use the wrong term, I guess. And who knows? Who makes the rules? I have no idea. I have an acquaintance of mine, a woman who had sexual reassignment surgery and now is a man and lives as a man. And if you knew this woman, you would say that God made a huge mistake. This woman was basically a man with breasts, and she never regretted it. Amazingly, she was in a lesbian relationship with a woman. Now, because she is a man, she's in a a heterosexual relationship with the same woman. Woman didn't leave her. It gets very confusing. And yeah, I understand. There's The problems is very murky. Now, if you're a man who likes to dress up in women's clothes and go out, you're definitely a man. If you've had sexual reassignment surgery, well, okay, you now have the parts of that new gender assignment you have. In other words, if you're a woman and become a man, they build a penis for you, and you can use that penis in intercourse. Apparently, it works. I mean, modern medicine is an amazing thing, but chromosomally or genetically, in terms of your DNA, you're still a woman. It's like it's really. I mean, that's about all these people in all these. There's been my complaint on this show about the fact we try to oversimplify everything. Some things, many things in life, maybe even most things, are not simple. You got all these legislatures everywhere say, well, if you're a man, you can't, if biological man, you can't go in a woman's bathroom. But if you've had sexual reassignment surgery, what are you? It's murky. It's really murky. And I'm trying to be fair to everybody here, and I think that's the way life should be. But the thing is, here's the thing about this too, and I've said this also: the vast majority, especially men, the vast majority of men, transgender men who are living as transgender women are mentally ill. Not all of them. Transgenderism is real, but the vast majority of them are. They're fooling themselves. They're crazy. And so, how do you basically need a degree in psychology to fill out the scorecard. It's really crazy. It's nuts. And so, we as society, but my point is, as I said to Andrew Fox, if you want, nobody cares. Nobody cares if you're a man that want to live as a woman. All this thing about repression of the transgender society they've made this up. Nobody gives a crap. And here's an example I'm going to use, and this is what I was going to crazy or talk. Yeah, well, this is crazy. So there's a guy who moved to the Netherlands because he decided the Trump administration, he's a transgender man, so he lives as a woman. He said the Trump administration was repressing his kind, and he moved to the Netherlands. But the town he moved to decided to let in a bunch of Muslim migrants. The town is a population of 10,000 people, and they let in 2,200. The Netherlands government assigned them there. And it's basically, the town is in an uproar because, first of all, they have no place, literally no room to house all these people. They have literally no room. It's a small town. And secondly, the culture clash is unbelievable. Now this guy says he fears for his life. He said, I'm going to read you a quote here. He says, it's scary. It's legitimately scary. I decided that my mental health is degrading so substantially being here that I just need to get out. The situation I have in the U.S. as a trans person, not good, right? But here, I could be hurt or killed. The thing about trans people in the United States being repressed is vastly overblown. Yeah, I'm sure you can find some guy living on some street somewhere who hates trans people. The vast majority of people simply do not care. And this has been politicized. And I think this is this is evidence of this. This guy moved to the Netherlands to get away from supposed trans repression in the United States, and now it's worse there. Well, okay, well, all right. So what, is he coming back? I have no idea, And I'm going to mention this too, because I just find this is just hilarious. I mean, I just do not believe this. And the thing is, I should have lumped these two things together. I never thought about that. Because I think I mentioned this on Monday about the fact that there's a cruise ship floating around the Adriatic. It's Virgin Cruise Lines. It's a gay cruise. There's 2,200 gay men on the cruise, and both Turkey and Egypt have refused to let them dock because those two countries, homosexuality is illegal. You didn't check that out before you left. What the hell? I don't understand. It's like, what's $1 million operation? I mean, I'm just gonna do some really quick math there. You got 2,200 people, and they're paying for a cruise. I've been on cruises, so you're probably making for the week $4 million, right? Okay, no one at the office checks. It's just crazy. I just don't believe it. It's the whole thing. It's like, I've said this before. Queers for Palestine is the funniest joke I've heard in 20 years. It's like, you've got to be kidding. Because if you go to Palestine and try to be queer, they'll throw you off a building. That's what they'll do. It's unbelievable. And so I'm going to mention this because this was going to be my other. I was going to end with this, a kicker, but the thing is, it's talking about people being stupid. There's a woman in New Jersey who's now been charged with sexually assaulting. Actually, I don't think she's a teacher. I think she was a nurse at a high school. She got charged with sexually assaulting one of the students there, and she got caught because she filmed some of the sexual interaction and posted it online. What? And she got arrested because there's proof of her having sex with an underage boy online because she put it there. It's like, are people really this dumb? I've said this for a long time. I think social media is so integrated into a lot of people's lives that they don't realize it's public. They don't realize, unless you lock down a post or your account or your profile or whatever, everything you post is usually available to the public. And people I don't even know if they forget. They just don't realize it. Just unfreaking believable. And so I will end with this, and that is I should have written this down. It's at some research facility. They have invented a drone that spins so fast you basically can't see it. It looks like a little blur against in front of the background. And so now there's a problem with this. First of all, people say, well, this is, it could be an incredible thing about delivering weapons or something. First of all, you can't see it, but it's really loud. There's that. That's the first thing they got to work on. They got to make it quiet. Secondly, one of the reasons you can't see it is because it's very light. And they've said if you try to put any sort of payload on it, like sensors or bombs or anything like that, it would no longer be invisible. But the fact of the matter is they did make an invisible drone. And I've seen the pictures of it. Yeah, it's invisible. I mean, looks like a digital blur against the sky. You can't see it. It's pretty amazing. So I'm going to lead with that. I end with that. But yeah, this thing about, okay, she posted it on, whatever. I don't know. I can't figure the world out, folks. I'm just an old man who can't figure out shit. So Jacob Berg is joining us on Monday from the Epoch Times, and we'll talk about the current UFO dumps and all that sort of stuff. We'll talk about that on Monday. Once again, we're only doing shows for the summer on Mondays and Thursdays. And today's Thursday, so the next show is Monday. See how I figured that out? It's always running. Always. Good night, Uncle Donnie, wherever you are. And good night to you, wherever you may be. I hope you folks have a nice weekend, okay? We'll see you on Monday with Jacob Berg. Take care.